Welcome everyone, I hope you're having a very wonderful day, and welcome to my guide for Chamois for Te Awaroa. Before we begin, I want to quickly break down how today's guide is going to work. So our first section will be covering their hotspots and locations, and then we're going to move on to weapon recommendations, and then end today's video with the animal profile, so the custom map, time zones, ammo chart, and more. Everything you need to make your hunting life 10 times easier. So, let's get right into it by quickly going over their time zones. Fortunately, these guys don't have a drinking time, so we're going to be going off of a feeding time, and the feeding time that we'll be going off of is between 8 to 12. That's where you're going to find most of your success when it comes to finding these guys. It's obviously noon. It's very bright out, which makes it easier to spot them. So next, we're going to We're going to open up our map and quickly go over all their zones. So we're going to zoom out fully just to cover the two locations that Chamois reside. They reside at this northern mountain right here and the southern one. And we're going to be covering the southern one first, starting on the right-hand side. We're going to zoom in right here. Now, I did try to check all the northern section of this mountain here, could not find any Chamois zones, so they pretty much only reside between these two little valleys nestled into the mountain. We have this first one right here, which I have my 10 at, which is pretty decent for rifles. It's pretty sparse vegetation and tree coverage here. You can kind of get a nice clean shot wedged in between the trees and the Chamois. They're easy to spot out here. It's pretty open, pretty flat as well. And coming over here down to the bottom, we also have this ridgeline here with 3 other zones, which are pretty easy to spot them all because they're all out on this open space with very sparse trees and vegetation. So when you're out here searching on this right-hand side, it's going to be easy to spot them. But coming down here, we do have the southernmost point for Chamois locations. They can actually reside here at the base of this mountain. Right here, I have 2 zones that are nestled right next to this outpost, which is pretty nice. Now, I do believe they can reside in here as well, but I think that's mostly for resting zones. And I was not searching for resting zones, so we will not see any zones whatsoever over here. I do expect that there could be feeding zones over here, but I could not find any. I searched over and over again, and this is all I found. Moving on to the left-hand side of the mountain here. Now, this is where I'm going to showcase. We're going to walk through the woods just a little bit, and we're just going to try to find some Chamois, but this is the area that I recommend for shotguns and handguns or semi-auto rifles, mostly just because we're going to open our map here. This is what you're going to be dealing with. So many trees, so many bushes. Now, these are short little animals, which is going to make it very difficult to find them, as you guys will see. But I did label this as a hotspot because I have about 7 zones here for Chamois, and they're large zones. Their groups can, I think, go up to around maybe 10 or 9 as the largest. But there is a lot of them, and when you're coming through these mountains and the woods, it's going to be very difficult to gauge if you can spot all the Chamois within that group. Mostly because they're just going to be scattered all over the place and hiding between rocks, trees, whatever, or hiding on the other side of ridge lines. So it's just going to be difficult. You're just going to want to take your time and explore and work your way around their groups and see what you can find. But we're just going to walk over here before we talk about the northern section of the map. I'm just going to showcase what you're going to be dealing with in this area. This is one of my favorite areas. If you can get your zones actually around the border edge up here that look down on the river, it's pretty easy to pick them off with rifles, but if they're in this wood line, or the woods in general, the jungle, it's just very, very difficult to deal with them. We're actually just going to sprint because honestly, it really doesn't matter. We're not out here to shoot them. I'm just to showcase how difficult it is to spot them. So we're going to keep running. We're eventually going to spot something because they're going to be mostly corralled back here. So they really don't have anywhere to go. So there's a call. Let's see if we can spot them with our eyes. They should be relatively close. I do not see a single one of them. They're just so tiny. But if you're going through the woods, I recommend just using your binoculars and scanning around. Oh, there we go. We got one right there. Let's see. Can we use our binoculars to actually spot them? The answer is no. Because once again, they're very tiny creatures. But we're looking for movement. There he is. See, as I said, he was pretty close to us. He was about 50 yards when we just spotted him, and he was hiding behind those trees. So coming through this woodland, you're going to just want to crouch, and they're very tiny. Look how tiny they are. There's another one. But they're very, very tiny, and it makes it very difficult in these woods. Don't run me over, buddy. So we're going to map now, and here comes more. He just smacked me. That was rude. We're going to map now, and we're going to cover the northern section of the map. We're going to be starting on the right-hand side, just like we did on the southern mountain. Now, I did mark this as a hotspot right here at this ridgeline. This is the northernmost point for Chamois. I did mark this as a hotspot because I have 5 zones for them. Coming down, we have this other ridgeline here, which is the midsection ridgeline, which is what I'm going to call it for this mountain. We have about 2 zones right here. Could not find any on the other side over here, but I do suspect they can have them. And as I said, I do suspect all their resting zones to be in the crater sections of these little valleys, ravines, whatever you want to call them. And then coming down here, we do have 2 more that are off the base of the mountain, which you can basically just walk up this road here and spot them off the side of the road, which wasn't too bad. Coming up here, we do have the tippy top of the mountain. This is why I call the top of the mountain, because I could not find any other zones up here. Are we about to be run over again? I think we're fine. There he is. There's that Chamois. Should pop out right there. There we go. But this is the tippy top of the mountain for the northern section. The way to get up here is you're going to come from this outpost, walk all the way up this road, and then walk up here this way. I do recommend tenting up here because it's kind of a hassle to get up here every single time from this outpost. It's a little bit of a walk, so I recommend putting one up here at least, or further back up in this section. But it's pretty flat and open out here, so it's going to be easy to pick them off with rifles, especially if you can get maybe about 2 or 3 zones right where my mouse is right here. It's just a very flat plateau, which makes it very easy to pop them. Moving up to the outpost that we just mentioned. If you go past this outpost into this little crater area right here, nestled in the mountain, we do have 3 more zones. And then moving up past that, we have 2 more zones that is in this little valley right here as well. Now, I do suspect there's more zones back here. I just did not pick them up because I did scare a few Chamois deeper into that area. But this is the northernmost section for Chamois on the left-hand side of this mountain. So that's pretty much it for the hotspots and locations. I hope this helped you guys out when you're going out there looking for your Chamois. So we're going to head back to the outpost and we're going to cover some weapons for these guys. Alrighty folks, so here we are at the outpost. Before we begin, I want to quickly mention 3 things. First things first is, I'm only going to be covering rifles, handguns, and shotguns. I'll not be covering bows because I'm not a bow expert, so I'll leave that to professionals. Secondly, these are just my personal recommendations and favorites. I always say go out there and explore and see what suits you and what you enjoy playing with. And then lastly, I'll be mentioning whatever DLC these weapons come from in case you want to pick them up for yourself. So, let's get right to it with our first rifle today. The Forza Elite 300 is my top bolt action for choice, at least for dealing with Chamois. I typically don't recommend this rifle because it sucks for small deer in my opinion. However, it definitely does the job for the Chamois. You have 6 rounds in there. It's got decent recoil, so you can place multiple follow-up shots. And it definitely helps against the Chamois since there's like large groups up to 9 to 10 of these guys. So if you have multiple golds, this rifle will be the perfect for you if you're trying to take out as many as you can within those groups. And you can find it in the Hunter's Choice Bolt Action Rifle Pack DLC. Moving on to the number 1 pick of the 3 rifles we'll be covering today, the Model 1894 is a phenomenal beast for dealing with these guys. Obviously, since you're out there on the mountains, they're going to be at odd and weird angles, and you're going to be able to take all your shots. It's going to take time to move around and get a nice vital. However, with this thing, that does not matter. You could shoot them anywhere, and it'll overpen them and hit a vital. This thing is basically the equivalent of taking a rocket launcher to just a minivan. So I highly recommend picking this thing up. It'll kill the Chamois very easily, and you can find it in the Ambusher Pack DLC. Moving on to our 3rd and final rifle of the day. This is what I typically would have used before the 300 came out for dealing with Chamois, but the 22-250 is a very phenomenal choice as well. It's got less recoil, I believe, than the 300. You have 5 rounds in there, so you're missing just 1 less round, but this rifle will do the job as well, and you can find it in the Emerald Coast DLC, which is a very phenomenal map, by the way. Moving on to handguns. Our 1 handgun today we're going to be covering is the 243 Kumo, which I just want to mention really quick about the rifle. The 243 rifle also does the job phenomenally, but I did not cover it just because I felt like there's other alternative options with more magazine capacity and stuff to deal with the Chamois. But for handguns, for the 243 Kumo, it's very phenomenal if you're trying to level up your handguns. You put a rifle scope on it, which gives it a greater zoom compared to all the other pistols game, which makes it a very solid choice. And you can find it in the Assorted Sidearms Pack DLC. Moving on to shotguns. Pretty much most of the shotguns are pretty much decent for taking out these Chamois, other than the 10 gauges. But the one we'll be covering today is the Norden 20 gauge. It's semi-auto. You have 3 rounds of the tube. You're not going to be able to use slugs on it, only buckshot for these guys. But having a semi-auto shotgun will definitely help you if you're hunting in the jungle parts, which we covered today earlier on. So this thing does the trick. It's very fun to use, and you can find it in the Duck and Cover Pack DLC. So that's pretty much it for the weapons, so I'm going to head over and meet y'all at the animal profile in just a moment. Alrighty folks, so here we are at the end of today's video. Before I let you guys go, I'm going to do a quick animal profile breakdown. Starting left hand side, we have all of our basic Chamois information. We have our class difficulty, silver, gold, and diamond threshold. We have our weight from least to greatest in kilograms and in pounds. We have our fur types covering common and very rare. I just want to point out, I don't know if the leucistic is considered very rare or rare for these guys, so I just lumped it in with very rare. So just keep that in mind when you're out there. Moving on to the center of the map here, I tried to make sure, as I mentioned in the first section of today's video, that all the boundaries for this is as accurate as possible. And hopefully they are, but if they're not, please let me know, and I'll try to fix them up later on when I readjust this guide. I do update these in the Discord, so if there's any fixes, they'll be posted there. Moving on, top right-hand corner, we have all of our time zones nice and organized for you, and then below that, we have the ammo chart for those full integrity kills. So that's pretty much it for today's video, guys. If it does help you, please drop a like. It really helps out the channel. And with that out of the way, I hope you guys have a very wonderful day. Happy hunting, good luck, and I will see you guys in the next one.